This is Jason Perot. I call to order this August 10th, 2020 regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen. We've had a little technical difficulty to start us off, but we think we've resolved that now. I need to go through some preliminary matter for our remote meeting. This meeting is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we've been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings. And as such, the governor's order suspends the requirements of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which is listed at the top of our agenda, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. On our agenda, we have posted the Zoom webinar link, the live stream on YouTube. This is going out on cable access television government channels, Verizon Channel 30 and Charter Channel 192. And there's a number to call on the agenda if you want to connect to the webinar by audio link. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. The meeting is being convened by the Zoom conferencing application. For the people participating in the Zoom meeting, please be aware that you are visible on video and audio. It's being recorded. For your benefit and for the meeting's benefit, you may choose or prefer to be on audio mute when you're not participating in the conversation. The ground rules of the meeting. I will begin walking through the agenda items. I will ask the presenter to make the presentation. Following the presentation, I'll poll the members of the board for their questions or comments or motions. Please hold comment until I've recognized you. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait for the chair to yield the floor to you. And if members wish to engage in colloquy with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. For items of public comment, when we arrive at that point in the agenda, we'll bring each person in one at a time and ask you to state your name and address. And then you'll have 3 minutes to present your comments. I think that concludes that matter. For the record, I just want to go through and check with the attendees of the meeting here. I'm Jason Perot, Chairman of the Board of Selectmen, at least for the next few minutes. We also have vacancy in Vice Chair at the moment. The other members, if you could please acknowledge with voice, Leslie Rattan.
Aye. Here.
Tim Kalin.
Here.
Julianne Hirsch.
Here.
And Scott Rogers.
Here.
We also have Town Administrator John Coder.
Present.
Town Clerk Andy Dowd.
Here.
Finance Director Jason Little.
Present.
And DPW Director Scott Charpentier.
Present.
As well as Fire Chief David Parenti, who's doing double duty tonight as the Fire Chief and as our Zoom meeting administrator.
Present.
And we also have Dana Volke for Northborough Cable Access Television, who's visibly muted at the moment and audibly muted at the moment. So thank you. Thank you very much, Dana, for your technical support this evening. Which brings us, I believe, to the first agenda item, which is approval of the June 22nd, 2020 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Also, Chief Liver is here. I'm not sure if you acknowledged that.
Oh, I'm very sorry, Chief. I'm playing tic-tac-toe on my my board here. Please, Chief William Liver. Thank you, Chief. Sorry. Thank you, Leslie, for reminding me.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of June 22nd, 2020.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All votes in a remote meeting are roll call votes. So I'll begin. Leslie.
Aye.
Tim.
Aye.
Julianne.
Aye.
Scott. I believe You'll abstain, yes, and I will vote aye. So we have minutes carry with 4 in approval and 1 abstention. Next item is election of officers. I will now turn the meeting over to Town Clerk Andy Dowd to conduct the process. Andy?
Evening, Mr. Chair. Thank you. As the board does every year after the annual town election, they have an opportunity to reorganize the positions, the officers on the board. And I'm here for that purpose this evening. So the first position I would call for nominations for the position of chair. Do I have a nomination? Leslie Rattan.
I'd like to nominate Jason Perot for the position of Chair of the Board of Selectmen.
Jason nominated by Leslie Rattan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Tim Kalin. Thank you. Do I have any other nominations for chair? Hearing none, I will close the nominations for chair. At this point, if we could have a vote, again by roll call, see if I can do as well as the current chair. We can go in order. Mr. Perot?
I will vote aye.
Yourself? Okay.
Sure.
Mrs. Rattan?
Aye.
Mrs. Hirsch?
Aye.
Mr. Kalin?
Aye.
And Mr. Rogers?
Aye.
It is unanimous, so congratulations to the chair who will continue. And next, I would call for nominations for vice chair of the board.
I'd like to nominate, oh, sorry, Leslie.
Oh, go ahead.
I'd like to nominate Tim Kalin for vice chair.
Second.
Tim Kalin nominated by Jason Perot, and did I hear a second?
Yes.
Seconded by Leslie Rattan. Thank you. Do you have any other nominations for vice chair? Hearing none, I'll close the nominations for vice chair. If I could again take a roll call vote for that nomination. Mr. Perot?
Aye.
Mrs. Rattan?
Aye.
Mr. Rogers?
Aye.
Mrs. Hirsch?
Aye.
And Mr. Kalin?
Aye.
Congratulations. And last but not least, I'd call for nominations for clerk of the board. Mr. Perot.
I nominate Leslie Rattan for clerk.
Nomination
Second.
of Leslie Rattan for clerk by Jason Perot and seconded by Tim Kalin. Thank you. Any other nominations for clerk? Hearing none, one more roll call vote. Mr. Perot.
Aye.
Mrs. Rattan.
Aye.
Mr. Rogers.
Aye.
Mrs. Hirsch.
Aye.
And Mr. Kalin.
Aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Andy. Much appreciated.
Anytime.
Andy, I don't know if you want to wait until report time or do it here, but I understand you have some information to present about upcoming elections and the process for doing that.
Certainly, if you like, I'd be happy to cover that now. Just to make residents aware of the upcoming primary election on September 1st, and then the general election, which will be held on November 3rd. It's important to note that all residents have all voters, I should say, have 3 options for voting this fall. The Secretary of State mailed all registered voters a postcard that they can complete requesting a mail ballot. So all residents that are voters in Northborough should have received those. At this point, as of last Friday, we've mailed out just over 2,300 ballots to folks in town. So it appears that's going to be a popular item. The other option for people is there will be in-person early voting prior to the September primary, and that's going to start on August 22nd and run through the following Friday, August 28th. We're in the final stages of confirming the hours and location for that, which is a bit more challenging given our buildings being closed in most cases right now, but we're going to work that out, and that will be announced shortly. And then, of course, they'll be voting on election day as there is required, and those will be the full regular hours, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Milliken Middle School for all voters that wish and are comfortable voting in person. And those same methods are available for the November 3rd election. The postcard that was just mailed does allow voters to request ballots for both elections in one request form, so that's convenient. So if they indicated they also want the November ballot around the beginning of October, as soon as we receive those ballots, those will be mailed out to voters as well. For folks who did not return the postcard but have an interest in voting in November, they will receive the postcard around the middle of September from the state. They're going to be sent to all voters who did not yet request a ballot, so that there will not be duplication, which we very much appreciate. So there'll be another opportunity for residents to return that request form. And again, there'll be at that point a more lengthy period of early in-person voting. Hours and location will be announced as that date gets closer. And the voting on election day, November 3rd, again, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Milliken Middle School for all precincts.
Great. Thank you very much, Andy. I appreciate that update.
You're welcome.
Important details for the circumstances we're currently in. So
Absolutely.
thank you.
Very much, Andy.
It's now past the hour of 7:05, and we have David Parenti, Fire Chief, for the swearing in of firefighter paramedic William Frank. And
Thank you. Okay, if I promote them up from, or you want to promote them up, Jason?
I don't think I have.
NFD station.
Yes, I see it, but I don't seem to have
Oh, you know why? I do know
the
why.
permissions.
Yeah,
here.
yeah. Hang on.
Yes.
That's me. Sorry. Hang on. Now you do.
Oh wow! Look at me. And do I promote to panelist? Is that right?
Promote to panelist, correct.
Yeah, very good. Coming in from Northborough Fire Department.
Soon they're coming in from Northborough Fire Department.
Yep.
They're downstairs. They better be coming in.
We have a guest on Northborough Fire Department. You're currently muted.
I'm not going to tell you what I just said, but there he is.
Hello.
Thank you, Captain. Got to turn your mic on. Got to turn your take off mute as well. Cap. Take it off mute. There we go.
There you go.
There you go. Thank you, Captain Desatel. Thank you, Chairman Perot. So with the when we had Dylan Kessler left us for a position in a department in Connecticut, down where he's from, and when that happened, we opened up a position for us, and we advertised. We had quite a few applicants. We actually got 17 to 18 applicants, which it seems like every time we put it out there, our numbers going up. So that's a good thing. Selectman Kalen joined us this time around to assist with the interviews, and they went very well. And we moved several ahead to a new process this year. We started a practical section of our promotional exam, which requires the candidates to go through a practical EMS portion where a couple of our senior medics put them through a couple different scenarios and then ask them questions on state protocols. And then they have to go through a firefighting skill practical, which you don't need to be a firefighter to do. You're given the direction. It just checks that your physical ability to do the job. Can you carry a ladder? Can you raise a ladder? Can you follow directions? That type of stuff. With all that done, they moved up 3 candidates for me to talk to. And the one who rose to the top was William Frank. Say hi, Will. Will, say hi. There we go. Will's he's a local guy. He comes to us from Fitchburg EMS, where he did 911 for the city of Fitchburg. He also has worked for MedStar Vital and Vital as a paramedic. Will graduated in 2012 from Douglas High School in Douglas, Mass. And he received his degree in paramedicine from Pro EMS, which is a center for medics in Cambridge. We're very happy to bring him on with his paramedic skills already in place. It made our job a little bit easier. However, he has no firefighting skills. So Will gets to go to the fire academy in the beautiful weather starting December 28th. Now, the way the fire academy is working nowadays is they do 2 weeks remote, as we're doing right now, 2 weeks at the academy. So he'll finally get to the academy sometime in the dead of January, and then 2 weeks remote, and then 2 weeks back at the academy, and then the last week is kind of a mix. So we're very excited to have Will on board. He'll be graduating from the academy March 5th, and just like to introduce the board to Will Frank.
Thank you very much, Chief. Appreciate it. Will, welcome to the town of Northborough and the fire department here. It's certainly what we consider to be an all-star cast, a lot of experienced people, an excellent group to work with, and kind of a tough lineup to crack. So can you just tell us a little bit about yourself or give us a little bit more background?
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
sure.
Speak
Step
up,
right
Bill.
up. That's fine.
Come in a little closer.
Yeah.
Come closer. There you go.
We are nice people.
That's good, Will.
Very adaptable. Yes.
So my name's Will. I come. Will, I am from Douglas, Massachusetts. Past 20 years. I am new to Northborough. I'm happy to be here.
Very good. Thank you very much. Board members, any comments? Leslie?
Echo what Jason said. Welcome to Northborough. We're very pleased to have you here. I like your background with your paramedicine degree. And I think it's fantastic that you get to go to the recruit training program and learn all this new stuff fresh. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity for you, and it's great for us to have someone like you on board with us. And in my usual fashion, I'd like each of the other guys who are there behind you, which I think is wonderful to see, if they could come up and introduce themselves as well.
Get to be a lot louder than that, Jamie.
Captain Jamie Bessentel.
There you go.
Firefighter paramedic Pat Duchman.
Firefighter Chris Pedro.
Thank you very much. I think we're blessed to have a department like this under the great guidance of Chief Parenti. And I know everybody's been through a lot with this whole situation, and to bring on another individual like yourself is a real asset for us. So thank you very much.
Any other comments by board members? Tim?
Welcome to the department, Will. The first time we met was through a computer screen, and now we get to meet again through a computer screen. Hopefully this thing resolves itself someday and I can shake your hand and properly welcome you to town. Congratulations. It's great to have you on board.
Thank you, Tim. And I think we're set then. Congratulations once again, Will. Appreciate your coming to Northborough. We're always looking for excellent candidates and excellent people in the department. So we wish you well. We wish you good luck at the Fire Academy, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
And Mr. Chair, I believe Andy's going to swear Will in.
Oh, yes. My mistake. Andy, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If our new firefighter would raise his right hand, I will happily administer the oath. Thank you. Do you solemnly swear that you will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties incumbent upon you as a firefighter paramedic for the town of Northborough in accordance with the bylaws of the town and the laws of the Commonwealth, so help you God? I think you said I do.
I saw the I do.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Will.
This is where we usually do
Great.
clap.
Yeah. Yay.
Moment of applause. All right,
Thanks,
then.
guys.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
There you go.
Now past the hour of 7:10 p.m. and we have Michelle Gillespie for Boroughs Cares for Troops, introduction of the Hometown Heroes program. And should be coming in, Michelle. Hello, Michelle.
Hear us now?
Yep.
Okay, you actually see us.
Sorry, I can't see you. I don't have video for you.
Okay,
There you are.
okay. you
Got
can
it.
see John doing it. So my name is Michelle Gillespie. I don't know if you can see this, it's sort of spread out. But to my right is Leslie Arsenal. And then next to her is Karen Brewster. And next to her is Beth Davison. And then myself, Michelle Gillespie. And we founded back in 2015, which I'm sure you're all familiar with and heard about us. BC4T, standing for Boroughs Cares for Troops.
Can you speak
We're
up a
here
little
today
bit,
because
Michelle?
we're starting a new program this
If you don't mind speaking up, that'd be great.
pass on this message. Okay, I'll pull my mask down. Can you hear me now?
Yes, very good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
If you feel like doing that, okay. If you're comfortable.
is everyone all set?
Yes.
All right. So I don't know if you want me to go through again, Leslie Arsenal, Karen Brewster, Beth Davison, and myself. In 2015, we started Boroughs Cares for Troops. We're here tonight just to present a new program that we'd like to start in Northborough called the Hometown Heroes, which will be honoring veterans active, those who have passed, both men and women in our community on the flagpoles along Main Street. I know that I sent a presentation to you guys. You should all have it in your packet, which describes Hometown Heroes, the display, the duration, how residents can participate, how we're going to get the cost and the donations accepted. And the contact information is myself and Leslie Arsenal at this point. So I don't know if you can see, John, if you want to step up a little. This is the banner that will be displaying on Main Street. And it is double-sided. And we plan on putting these banners up in October. I've already had a discussion with Scott about it. It would be mid-October when the Applefest banners come down. These hometown banners would go up. We keep them up probably until mid-December before the winter starts to arrive, and take them down and then cycle through again with that. And that's pretty much it. You know, we think it's a great program to have for Northborough, a great way to honor our veterans. But we wanted to let you know about it and pretty much ask your permission to have these on the banners displayed on the telephone poles. And we would be paying the DPW and the police department for the detail to put the banners up and take them down. I think that's probably most of it.
Thank you, Michelle. Can you just talk a little bit about how the banners are produced or how that's funded?
It's funded through donations that we receive, and they're produced by a printing company that's up in Leominster area, and we're following the model that the town of Bolton is using.
And is that live at the moment for donations?
Yes, it is. We
It
are,
is, okay.
and we are receiving donations now. And we have approximately about 7 veterans that we're working on right now as portraits.
Great.
We anticipate to try to get up 25 for the fall. And that'll be sort of a presentation to the town and sort of a way to show everyone what the program is about. And then come next year, we expect to have probably as many as 50 more. So goal is to get to 100. We don't anticipate have any problem whatsoever with donations.
Great. Is there a plan over time as far as how they're displayed or which ones are displayed in terms of rotation or something like that?
Well, we'd wait until we got to 100, Certainly you can do 100 poles along Route 20. You have plenty of poles from Marlboro all the way down to the shopping mall, so there's no shortage of poles. And then at that time, if we get to 150 or 200 veterans, we do it on a rotation basis, and everybody, all the families that have been contacting us understand that this will happen over time if we ever get to that amount. It could be that we would maybe possibly come back to the town and come off of Route 20 and maybe try to go down to a Church Street, Howard Street. We have a lot of your American flags being held. But at this point in time, our focus is just on 100 right now, which we think we could do that within the next couple of years.
Okay. And do the banners require a change to the hardware that's already mounted for the Apple Fest banners, or are the existing Apple Fest hardware?
Exactly the same.
They're the same. Okay.
We are partnering with Apple Fest. It's the exact same size, exact same material, everything. Apple Fest is up there. It's exactly the same. So when Apple Fest goes up, and then the DPW and police take them down, the Apple Fest, they'll then put at the same time these banners up.
Got it. Thank you. Any other comment from any of the other BC4T members here?
Just that we've gotten quite a bit of enthusiasm from a lot of people already. They're actually very honored to even be asked for a picture. And there's quite a few of them out there that don't feel like they're a hero, but they are. And we want to make sure that they're recognized with that.
Excellent. Board members, any comments? Leslie?
First of all, it's nice to see you guys. And Leslie, that's a beautiful banner of Brian. That's really nicely done. I think it's a great idea. And Jason actually asked what I was going to ask. It really makes it a seamless thing. If it's the same hardware and they go up right when Apple Fest comes down, it makes a lot of sense. And I have seen this in other communities. I think I saw it in Marlboro as well.
Marlboro has a program. They do.
Yeah. Quite nice. I think it's a wonderful thing to do. It makes a lot of sense. And I think that, you know, I agree with you. I think there would be a lot of enthusiasm toward this, especially with all the, just with all the monuments we have here in town. I just think there's a lot of nice feeling about that. So thank you very much for starting that up.
Tim?
Thank you very much. I think this is a great idea. I think it's a wonderful way to remember the people that have served our community, our country. Just so people can hear it, if somebody wanted to make a donation, how would they go about doing it?
So the program will be available probably within the next week up on the website. They could go through the PayPal account and then do an electronic donation that way, or they can send a check to our PO box, noting Hometown Heroes on it. And our PO box is
304.
304. So it's BC4T, PO Box 304, Northborough, Mass.
And what's the website, Michelle?
www.bc4t.org.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Just so we have in the recordings. Thank you.
The number 4.
It's the number 4, not spelling out 4.
It's BC, the number 4T.
T.org. And because we are connected, we actually ran a program this spring where we brought a lot of, I don't know guys, if you guys know this, but there's close to 300 veterans in Northborough that are over the age of 70. And we brought care packages to them this spring. And so we've had a lot of connection with our veterans. And so there's just a lot of people who just approach us wanting to make a donation or wanting to honor their father or mother or family member. So it's now picking up the momentum in the community. I also want to thank Scott Carpenter and Robo and the staff. They've always done an excellent job supporting Apple Fest with the banners along Main Street, and I know they'll continue to do so with this project.
Great. Thank you very much. Julianne, comment?
Yeah, so I'd like to echo what my fellow selectmen have said, and thank you very much. I think this is going to have a very big impact, and it's also kind of educational. It's going to teach us a lot. So thanks again.
you go down Main Street, you'll notice the photos. You're also going to notice what war the veteran was in. So you'll probably see World War II, Vietnam, Korean, the current wars that we have. I don't know if we're going to get World War One veterans, but we're working on it to go back. So, like you said, Julianne, it's going to be an interesting history as you drive down Main Street.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll just echo those sentiments. I think it's an excellent idea to bring awareness and to honor the veterans who have served the country or sacrificed for the country. I was fortunate to get a brochure a couple months back from Leslie Arsenault, who kind of showed me the program and outlined all the details coming from one of the other communities that had done it. And I think in some respects it helped to make this very turnkey for us in them having kind of worked through their process and some of the logistical details, something that we can take advantage of and kind of get this launched relatively quickly. So thank you all for the work you did for this. There's certainly an approval. I'm not sure that there's I don't know that we have a motion or formal action that we need to take. I think just by agreement of the board, happy to support this and please proceed.
Thank you very much, guys. Thanks for all your work during this pandemic. I know you've been busy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, then. Thank you very much, and look forward to catching the website. I think to look for opportunity to donate.
Yeah, you can look at the website and then soon look at the banners probably in October.
Yep. Very good. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good night. Yes, we do have. It's past the hour of 7:15. We have Fred Litchfield, Town Engineer. Approval and execution of intermunicipal agreement for participation in the Central Massachusetts Regional Stormwater Coalition for fiscal year 2021 through fiscal year 2025. And bring Fred into the room. Hello, Fred.
Good evening, Jason. Can you see me there?
We cannot see you yet.
Okay.
We have learned to spell your name, though.
Oh, that's good. Thank you. Oh, wait a second. Maybe this will help. There we go.
Yes. Hello.
Good evening. Thank you for having me in. I believe that you have a copy of the intermunicipal agreement that's been forwarded to us from the town of Spencer. This agreement allows us to participate in the next 5 fiscal years with the Central Mass Regional Stormwater Coalition. This is the same agreement that we had signed 5 years previously in FY16 through FY20. Basically, the only difference really is that this year the steering committee, which I am a member of, voted to reduce the fee from $4,000 to $1,000 for participation for this one fiscal year to help with the strapped budgets during the COVID-19. And then it will go back up to $4,000 per year for the remaining 4 years of the agreement. The coalition is made up of 32 towns that work together to review the requirements and work together to help standardize some of the things that are required by the federal government. This actually works out pretty well. We have a consultant that works with the town, but this allows us to have participation in a number of, well, now they're video, but there's a number of different workshops and things that we need to accomplish for training and exercises that need to train the staff. So it's been quite beneficial, even though we work with a consultant to supplement that.
Very good. Is that the complete presentation, Fred?
Yes, the coalition is helping us to meet our requirements for the federal stormwater program, which we are mandated to participate in.
Okay.
I'd be happy to answer some questions if the board members have any.
Board members, Julianne?
So Fred, the coalition is CMRWPC.
CMR SWC, the Central Mass Regional Stormwater Coalition.
Okay, sorry about that. But
That's okay.
so my question is, do they also help with enforcing, like who? So stormwater drainage can be pretty complicated in some cases, from what I'm learning. Do they come and make sure that these systems are always working properly?
That falls on the town staff. We are, the DPW director and I work together on implementing the programs that are required by the federal government and then maintaining the records that pursue them, that are required for them.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Julianne. Leslie?
Yeah, thank you very much, Fred. I thought it was good. I did note your comment about the dues being 1,000 and that it's not being made up for in following years. It's going to be set at what it had been set at, which is good. It's not like all of a sudden next year we're going to have to pay $5,000 or something like that. Also, this seems very minor, but what do those dues go toward? Does it go toward paying the grant writer? Is it a source of revenue for Spencer, or what is that?
Well, it's not a source of revenue for the town of Spencer. It actually goes to, we do have a consultant that works with the coalition to write grants. We have gotten some grants in the past. We did not get one the last year. They do have a campaign, a Think Blue campaign, that you may have seen, the little yellow ducks with the Think Blue on them. They do have a number of workshops which require other engineering consultants to hold them and do some of the training that we're able to participate in, so that each town is not having to hire their own consultant to do everything. We use a consultant to help supplement our stuff, but the coalition has a consultant that then will hold a workshop training all the trainers or the people who are responsible for submitting the report, which falls to Scott and I.
Okay. So there's really nothing of consequence in this particular agreement versus what we signed 5 years ago?
No, it's almost virtually the same, other than the price is slightly changed.
Okay, thank you.
Scott Rogers?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Fred, did the coalition start in 2016, or they formed even before that?
They actually did form before that. I believe the coalition started in 2010 or 11, and the town of Northborough didn't join until late 2012, part of fiscal 2013. We weren't one of the original 13 communities. They like to refer to themselves as original colonies. They are now up to 32 communities. It has bounced up and down, averaging around 30. It's been as low as 28 since I've been a member, or the town has been a member, and up to 32, which I think it currently is. Part of the agreement is that whenever a community drops out, because there are some communities in the western part of the state that are outside Central Mass, but still are members, and they're not required to participate in the phase 2 program. Not everyone in the coalition is, but they're doing it in order to improve their stormwater quality in their communities. And some of the towns towards the western part of the state are a little bit more strapped for staff and cash. And so a couple have bounced out for various reasons, and others have joined.
Great, thank you.
And if I could ask Fred, just to clarify, we're doing this agreement with the town of Spencer. It's essentially just the two parties. Spencer's kind of like the coordinating entity for all of this with each of the other communities that are participating, right?
That's correct. Spencer, the town administrator in Spencer has agreed to be the financial holder of all the funds and is a chairman of the committee, along with one of the technical members.
Very good. Any other questions from the board? Any other comments from staff? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move the board vote to approve and execute the intermunicipal agreement with the town of Spencer for participation in the Central Massachusetts Regional Stormwater Coalition for FY 2021 through FY 2025 as submitted by town engineer Fred Litchfield.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, this is once again a roll call vote. Leslie?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Julianne?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Carries unanimously. Fred, thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
all your work.
Thank you very much. And I'll
Okay.
see you soon.
All right.
Okay.
It's now past the hour of 7:20, and we have Scott Charpentier, DPW Director, informational presentation regarding completed water sewer rate study and status update on town hall reopening. Scott, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for having me. We're in the midst of our rate study again this year. We perform one every year for the water and sewer divisions. The FY21 rate study is nearly complete. This is an informational meeting. As we've done in past years, we have an informational meeting in front of the Water Sewer Commission, which was conducted on July 22nd. We have this one before the Board of Selectmen, and then the formal rate hearing is conducted by the Water and Sewer Commission hereafter. So that's scheduled for August 17th at 5:30 p.m. That'll be the public hearing. At that point, the Water and Sewer Commission will formally and officially consider the rates. So I'll go through with you briefly what the rate study included, what the recommendations are. There's a bit of an anomaly we did this year, which I'll describe to you as well. So our rate analysis that we conduct every year considers many different factors on the two enterprise funds. The Water Enterprise Fund and the Sewer Enterprise Fund are both run completely independent of each other and independent of the general fund. I like to refer to them as two small businesses that can't lose money and don't want to make much. So every year we evaluate our expenses. Our expenses, each line item has a 5-year look back, and we have escalations going forward through the rate study period, which is 5 years. So we don't apply a blanket percentage increase. Each item is considered individually. By items, I mean, utilities, fuel, labor, pipe replacement materials, things like that. So completing the full analysis, we then consider what our revenue needs may be going forward on the capital side, what our debt status is with existing debt, and how that debt is looking going forward, and what capital projects we have coming on. On the Water Enterprise Fund, we're proposing a 4% volumetric increase this year, and 0 increase on the base charge. The base charge is a fixed revenue stream, and one of the goals in any utility enterprise fund is to establish a safe ratio of base and fixed revenues versus volumetric revenues, which vary seasonally. So last year we implemented a $5 increase, which was a substantial increase on the base charge with 0 volumetric increase. So last year's rate increase was strictly on the base charge. This year is a 4% on the volume with no change to the base charge. We've considered in future years in the rate study, you'll see in every other year increase to the base charge in order to maintain that fixed to volumetric ratio. One thing to consider one thing we consider when we're looking at the rate increases is a continued decrease in use. Mass DEP has promoted water conservation. Every time we buy a new faucet, anytime somebody rebuilds their home, it's low flow toilets, low flow shower heads, low flow faucets. Water conservation is in the best interest of everybody, but on a revenue stream, where we lose revenue by selling less water. Generally, it's between 0.5%, maybe close to 1% some years. Our projected escalations for our line items fall above and below CPI, but they're generally in the 2 to 3% range each. So when you couple a 2% escalation in accordance with CPI to a 0.5% loss in volumetric sales, you have a net of 3 to 3.5% needed just to maintain level service. Now, when you bring into some capital projects, there's a need to increase fund balance. So again, this year we're proposing a 4% volumetric increase on the water side with a 0 increase in the base charge. Sewer is, we're still in litigation with Marlborough. We have not resolved the intermunicipal agreement situation. It's been a number of years. The sewer division has seen a lot of rate increases over past years, substantial ones. We've stabilized those, and now we're proposing a 5% rate increase this year. There was no rate increase last year for sewer. Our goal is to maintain a more stable rate increase until this IMA is resolved. We project out an increase as we deem appropriate for our Marlborough charges. So one of our line items in our expenditures is use charges from Marlborough. Where that IMA is still in litigation, we don't have a firm number there, so we're projecting what we believe is a reasonable increase, between 5 and 10% every year. So again, we're proposing a 5% rate increase on the sewer side. When we don't recognize Marlborough's increase due to the litigation, the surplus goes into the retained earnings. We have a substantial balance in our retained earnings, anticipating and hoping that resolution to the IMA will come soon, and we're in a financial position to make the town whole when that does occur. So on the sewer side, again, it's a 5% volumetric increase. Now, the one anomaly that we did this past year that we have not done in past is related to the flat sewer charges. We have customers in some neighborhoods that are not on municipal water, they're on well water. They get charged a flat sewer rate. Because they don't have a water meter, we have no way to meter how much sewage they're putting into the system. Their flat sewer rate was based on 3,000 cubic feet per quarter use. That use was established decades ago. It was brought to our attention last year by some residents of a specific neighborhood who said, this seems excessive. Can you evaluate it? Mid-year, last fiscal year, we went through an evaluation, came up with an amended volume to base the flat sewer rate on. As I said earlier, water use has been going down over year over year. The flat sewer rate has not been adjusted or evaluated since. So the flat sewer rate, which was $340.20 last fiscal year, is being adjusted down to $220. So it's a little over $100 deduction, $120 reduction. It's based on the 70th percentile of our typical residential water customer. It's a fair and reasonable approach. A lot of communities do a lot of different things. This is what I believe is the most equitable way to adjust the flat sewer rate. So these rates, again, the hearing, I just want to make sure that's out there again. The hearing is scheduled for August 17th at 5:30 p.m. with the Water and Sewer Commission. And upon adoption, a mailer will go out to all customers with the adjusted rates. And the adjusted rates become effective as of October 1st for the use. So that's all I have, Mr. Chair, and be welcome to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Scott. Appreciate it. Any questions by the board? I'm sorry, John, would you care to augment that? John Coder?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to point out one thing, and I know that you know this in terms of operations as a whole. One of the things that Scott, I think, has done an excellent job of in terms of refining these rate studies and working with the consultants is making sure that we're doing appropriate amount of capital investment. As you know, on the water side of the water enterprise at town meeting, we approved the rehabilitation of the Assabet water tank. On the sewer end of things, we've also approved a new operational barn. We've replaced water meters. We're dealing with a SCADA remote system that allows the DPW to monitor the entire system for issues or problems before they become larger. We're replacing water mains. We're replacing sewer pipes. We've upgraded sewer pump stations. I guess the moral of the story is, and you hear me say this all the time in terms of the general government side of the budget, in that you don't save money by not investing in your capital and taking care of things. And so when we do these rate studies, we want to make sure that we're capturing all of that. So built into these modest and periodic rate increases are all of those capital projects that have been approved at town meeting that you see happening. So it's really important to understand that from an enterprise fund, as Scott mentioned, they operate like a business separate from the general fund, the general taxes. But baked into that is they have to take care of everything, including the capital investment. The physical plant must be maintained. And I think that's one of the defining factors between a very well-run and well-organized enterprise fund and one that is not doing well. Because you can postpone, as you well know, those types of expenses for many years, and they will come back to roost. It'll cost you more money down the road, and you'll have service interruptions. So one of the things I think Scott's done an excellent job of is a capital plan. There's the capital plan piece that fits into the enterprise fund operations, which relates to this rate study. So it's very holistic approach to making sure that we're running two businesses. And as Scott said, they don't make money, they don't lose money. They basically operate at cost in order to provide these services. So just want to point out that that capital piece is a very key component to good fiscal management and good operations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. Questions or comments from board members? Hearing not much of anything, I will ask a question. Scott, you mentioned about the sewer only users. Do you have a number for how many of our users are in that circumstance?
There's less than 100 of them. They're in specific neighborhoods. For example, Espet Hill, it's a high elevation. They were constructed up there without municipal water. They're all on well water. So that's one of the specific neighborhoods.
Yeah.
But it's a small portion of the users.
Right. So that adjustment is more equity for them, but in the overall scheme of things, not too significant a downward impact in revenues.
It's a very small financial impact overall on the enterprise fund, but it's helpful and fair and reasonable for that small group of users.
Right. Great. Thank you very much. If there are no questions or comments, I don't have a motion because there's no, this is just an informational presentation. So thank you, Scott, for that information. The second item, I believe you're giving us a status update on town hall reopening.
Yes, another informational session. We are at the town of Northborough. We've put together a reopening committee consisting of a variety of department heads from different buildings as well as throughout town hall. Been tasked with evaluating the different phases and stages that the governor's office has been releasing and how and when to open what services and in what fashion to make things safe. And the reopening committee hasn't just been considering an opening of a building. It's been the first two phases focusing on the safety of the employees, on implementing the continuity of operations plans, the hygiene requirements issued by the governor. So we're at that point, phase three, where the town hall has an opportunity to open up to the public in a limited fashion by appointment only. So the expectation is to provide a public release the next day or so, outlining these protocols. But in summary, we're proposing a reopen town hall for limited appointments on Tuesdays and Wednesdays between 9 a.m. and noon, and on Thursdays from noon to 3. Anybody interested in meeting with one of the departments at town hall, call that department, make an appointment. They'll be let in. We have a designated meeting space. It's in the gymnasium on the basement floor. There's adequate facilities down there for the meeting. All safety protocols have been implemented down there for social distancing and disinfection. It's important to be aware that when you do come to town hall for a meeting, you're going to be required to wear a face covering. If you cannot, accommodations will be made to meet your needs. There'll be information gathered as part of the contact tracing program in the Commonwealth that'll be obtained by the person you're meeting with. There'll be a touch-free temperature take at the time. And we're limiting the visitation to 2 visitors per appointment. We can accommodate two appointments at a time, but our request is that it's 2 visitors per appointment. The departments at town hall have been providing the services required of the residents. We haven't had an onslaught of need that has not been met, but there are needs that are being met in the parking lot that we felt would be better met in a safe meeting space. We're not the only ones doing this. Our peers, many of our peers have opened. Surrounding peers, I know Grafton has. I've been in that town hall a few times. Westborough is scheduled to open on the same day we are, which is Monday, August 17th. So again, there'll be a release that goes out. Be aware that the questionnaires will be asked on the way in. We have masks. We have sanitation. We have sanitary facilities. We will be disinfecting between meetings. But it's time, and we're going to be able to provide a little better service to the residents.
Thank you very much, Scott. Any questions, comments by the members of the board? Julianne?
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Do you know anything about the library?
The library is, oh, John, you?
No, go ahead. You can handle it.
Okay. So the libraries are allowed to be open under phase 3. Phase 3, stage 1, libraries are allowed to be open at a limited capacity. One of the concerns with many of the libraries, municipal libraries, is maintaining that limited capacity, meaning you would have to have somebody at the door counting. Mm-hmm. And second is maintaining social distancing within the library. Some of the older libraries where they have tight stacks and they can have easy directional arrows maybe have different challenges than some of the more open libraries that are being built nowadays, where it's a little more difficult to maintain distancing. So currently, the library is not open for visitation, but they are open for pickup and drop off. I know that.
Right. Yeah. If I can just add to that through the chair. So sure. As Scott said, excellent online services are being provided, and curbside pickup and delivery is being taken care of. So people have access to the electronic media, and they have access to the physical media as well. They just have to pick it up. Keeping in mind right now, at the moment, we are in the process of recruiting for a new library director, and opening up or advancing in-person services is something that I'm not comfortable doing until we get a library director in and settled. And as you know, last week or earlier in the week, the governor rolled back some of the phase 3 reopenings and guidelines, because we're starting to see an uptick in the number of positive COVID tests. Now in Northborough, I'm very pleased with the progress that we've made, and in part, the progress has been due to the sacrifices that the residents have made and the cancellation of many of the programs, in-person programs and large gatherings. But we've had in the last couple of weeks, at one point we had no known active COVID cases in town. And I believe right now, at least according to DPH, we're sitting at 2. That bounces around anywhere between 0 or 1 and 2. So I think, again, these are known cases. That doesn't mean that there can't be more out there. but I think Northborough's done a very good job of managing the spread in our town to the best of our ability. And in part, it's due to the fact that we have constrained, a lot of the congregate areas where and events where you can see that spread take place. So for now, online and curbside is where we're going to be with a library for at least the foreseeable future until we get settled in and we get a new director, and we'll see where we are. But I think they've done an excellent job providing services to the residents during this whole COVID crisis.
Thanks.
Thank you, John. Leslie.
Yeah, okay. First of all, I like this document. It's very nicely laid out. It's very pleasant to look at, and it's very informative. And from what I can see, it says everything we need it to say. Will that be up on cable and the town website and also go out in town news?
Yes, it'll go out through all those venues tomorrow. We just wanted to, again, roll it out to the board first, so you understand and you know what we're doing and why we're doing it in the timeline. And then we're looking to get this communicated out to the residents. And I just want to say, just for the record, and I asked this at every COVID-19 task force meeting, and I asked this at every department head staff meeting that we have, and we've been doing those on a weekly basis. Is there anything that you're hearing from the residents that they, in terms of services, that they can't get from us by phone, by email, or through some other mechanism? And what I'm hearing pretty consistently is that no, people, we've spent the last 4 months putting most forms, most processes up online, and we've gotten people used to conducting their business remotely, as we all have in our personal and in our business lives. We've gotten used to doing these things remotely. So there isn't a big demand, but on the off chance that somebody feels that they need to do this, we have a safe way of accommodating limited amounts of interaction. What I've heard and what Scott has heard from our neighboring communities is they've had these, they're putting these things in place, but the towns that have actually done it are seeing little to no requests. So again, we want to be responsive, but by and large, there's very little at this point that you would need from us that you can't get remotely. So, and that says a lot about the work the departments have done to be responsive to the needs of the residents.
Thank you, John. Leslie?
Yeah, if I could get a little bit more clarification on the appointments. You're only 2 people. Are you talking about 2 people allowed to sit together during the appointment, or is it two people per department can come in and meet with those town staff?
2 visitors per appointment. The intent and objective was, in the event a married couple needed to come see the clerk, or a homeowner needed to come in with their professional consultant, contractor, or representative.
I see. Okay. But only one department at a time, though? There would not be several department heads meeting with 2 people, 2 people, 2 people in the
we have two designated meeting spaces set up separate from each other, with 2 sets of chairs at each. So I could attend a meeting with town planner, with a homeowner, and a prospective consultant to discuss the development.
I see. Okay, great. Thank you very much.
And the graphics are 100% Liz Trediak, our senior center director. You see what my memorandums look like. They're not that pretty. So that's all her.
That makes a difference. It's nice. Thank you.
Very good. Any other comments? Seeing none, thank you, Scott, for this second informational segment for the evening. I appreciate all the work that you and the staff have been doing to try to meet the needs of people in these circumstances, and to make, the departments and services accessible in whatever ways necessary for people to conduct their business effectively. So appreciate all the work. I look forward to the notice going out, and just to remind people, or make, re-emphasize, it's not walk-in service during these hours. You need to call ahead, make an appointment, get a scheduled time, and there are these other additional restrictions, requirements that will be part of that entire operation. So once again, thank you very much, Scott. Appreciate it.
Happy to help, Jason. Thank you.
brings us to reports. And I think we'll go down to the end of the line with our newest selectman, Scott Rogers. Scott, welcome to the board. We didn't welcome you at the start of the meeting, but you seem to have conducted yourself very capably to this point. So any report this evening?
Just to say, yeah, thank you. The onboarding process went very well. Thanks to everybody that helped with that, and providing materials and providing guidance on that. Felt like I was able to hit the ground running. Yeah, during this period since town meeting, the benefit of having a lot of the boards and committees recorded or live, so I've been able to absorb everything from Water and Sewer Commission to Trails Committee to Benevolent Fund, and it's been great to get up to speed on all those different boards and committees. So thank you for everyone helping with that.
Great, thank you, Scott. Julianne.
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, congratulations, Jason, on your reelection, and welcome, Scott, to the board. Look forward to working with you. I'd like to thank the Community Affairs Committee for the cleanup in June. It's always a big effort, and thanks to everybody who participated. I'd like to thank all the departments for a really successful town meeting. And even as Scott just said, how Liz helps him with his graphics, it's becoming very, very clear that you're all a very versatile group, and it's so nice to see how you're all helping each other during this time. So it's a nice feeling. So my next question goes back to town meeting, and that is, we voted at town meeting for a $100,000 feasibility study for a town hall. At what point are we going to set up the committee for that? I'll address that to the chairperson.
John.
Yeah, that would be my committee, and I'll be setting that up shortly.
So if anyone was interested in volunteering for it, would they?
Yeah, so what we'll do is we would advertise, so building committee, feasibility study committees, those are my appointments, usually subject to a review by the board, but we haven't gotten there yet, so that was just done a couple of weeks ago. So we're trying to get back up to speed and moving on other projects that have been on hold due to the COVID-19. But people should just wait until they see the advertisement for the committee and then apply that. So
one of the possibilities here is 4 West Main Street. And, just for the public, the selectmen can't really talk amongst themselves aside from open meetings. I would personally like to have a walkthrough of that building to see what it looks like. So maybe at this time, if anybody else is interested, but
if I may interrupt, you don't have the right to enter private property. That's not our building. We have no rights to that building. So at this point in time, it's not under our control. It will not revert back to the town until May of 2022. So as part of the process, we can make a request down the line potentially of the owner, but there's no more right to enter that building as I have to enter your house at this point in time. So we just need to be clear that that building is not under our control, will not be under our control for a considerable amount of time. So we need to be careful how we proceed in terms of working with the owners to gain access. At some point, as part of the feasibility, we're hoping that the person who has control of the building would be willing to let us come in and do some kind of basic assessment as part of our feasibility study. So that would be something that we would schedule down the road.
So maybe when the feasibility study person is going through, we could go through if we're interested, or
potentially. Again, that's it's too soon for me to get into that just yet. But we need to. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. But again, we only have the ability to go in if we're allowed to go in. So.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
Okay, and so there, I have another question. What is the status of most committees meeting now? Are they back on schedule? Are we? It's because it's very difficult. I guess we just have the one Zoom capability.
No, we have the issue is for meetings that require public hearings.
Right.
That would be the webinar license. The Zoom meetings are not an issue necessarily for us, but one thing that you will hear is right now the biggest issue for us, frankly, is getting staff to be able to host meetings and to provide the support that's necessary. Everybody thinks that these remote meetings are convenient and they're easy. They're actually much more work for us and more work for cable access, because everything needs to be broadcast and everything needs to be recorded, and somebody needs to host each of these meetings. So in terms of where things stand, most boards and committees are back. The limiting factor is generally staff time. So for instance, a couple of the committees that I'm responsible for have not been back to meeting. For instance, the White Cliffs Committee, we need to get back to that. But all the main boards and committees, the ZBA, the Board of Selectmen, the ones that need to meet that could not be put on hold for a variety of reasons, those are meeting. So we're getting our way down through. One of the things that we've been working with is training staff to be the liaisons for these boards and committees in order to provide the remote participation support that's needed. And I will tell you, it's a significant issue for us. And right now, one of the guys that we're burning out is our fire chief, who has been hosting things like planning board meetings, which go on very late. And so, so we've been taking turns, and MIS has been doing some, Jason's been doing some, Scott's been doing a bunch. You know, everybody's been pitching in, but it's one of the issues that we're looking at right now is trying to bring in some part-time potential cable access staff to hopefully help out with some of that. So most boards and committees that need to meet have been able to meet and have been moving forward. It is very challenging and becoming increasingly more difficult to add boards and committees to the workload that we have right now, because it's challenging for us to serve all of these boards and committees in a remote environment already. So I think we've done a good job, and we would not have been able to do it had it not been the willingness for people like the chief in particular to step in and provide that coverage and that support.
So there's no possibility of training committee members?
Well, committee members have been trained and getting trained, just like Chairman Perot has been trained in terms of the things that he needs to do, and not hosting, but co-hosting, promoting callers and things of that nature. This is this isn't a thing where you can pitch it off to volunteer committee members, because we need to make sure that we're complying with the open meeting law, and the smallest snafu or hiccup, like you saw at the beginning of our meeting tonight, you know, trying to make sure that cable access is in here, that things are streaming, that we're recording. It's a lot of this has to do with compliance with, again, the open meeting law. And so, so we had very long meetings as a working group about whether or not we could pitch this to volunteers, and in terms of consistency for making sure that it goes out over our YouTube channel, through cable access, that it gets recorded, and that we're doing everything properly to comply with the open meeting law. That requires some staff assistance at this point.
Okay. All right. And so another topic is, a while back, we talked about putting on town news all of the committee meetings and agendas as they come up.
Yes.
Are we still working on that, or?
I'd have to check and see where the MIS is with that. We've been a little preoccupied with COVID-19 and remote access and getting employees able to call in, and so that's been the focus of MIS. So, but yeah, our intention is to what for folks at home or the other board members, or if you're not aware of what Selectman Hirsch is referring to, it's just your ability to sign up, and when an agenda gets posted for a committee or board that you're interested in, you would receive an email. And so, so I did make a commitment that we'd want to get all of them up there. Why wouldn't we? It's just a matter of setting that up. But there's a lot of things like that that have been placed on the back burner in recent months. So,
Okay, thank you.
but that's something we will pursue.
Thanks. And I'll just end my report with a big thank you to all of the residents who are continuing to follow the COVID restrictions and keeping us all healthy. So that ends my report.
Thank you very much, Julianne. Leslie.
Okay, I would like to also welcome Scott to the board. Congratulations on the win. Glad to have you on board. And Jason, congratulations, welcome back. And very interesting campaign season. And hopefully that won't have to be duplicated. It was such an odd situation, I think, to have this time period of having to campaign and putting signs out. So I also want to thank the chiefs for their monthly reports and also for your work during the pandemic. You have done so much, and I think as both of you as chief safety officers for the community, you're both to be commended and respected for everything that you do, and we very much appreciate it. And I also would like to thank the residents and businesses for staying safe and following the protocol. Our numbers have been really good lately. I do follow it every week, and for the most part, it's been just going up 1, maybe 2 new cases. I know that the DPH listed as something under 5, but it's been nice to see that Northborough has basically been 1 or no change at all for the last few weeks. So obviously people are complying and trying to be cooperative with that. Thank you very much. I want to thank the superintendent and the school department. I know that there have been a lot of meetings with staff and other personnel to come up with 3 viable plans. I believe that the submission date for those is this coming Friday. It was moved back. And the district has to come up with an in-person learning plan, a hybrid learning plan, and a remote learning plan. So I know it's very complicated, a lot of things to think through, and there's probably no sure solution that can serve every single district. So I know it's just a lot to think through in terms of what our district can and cannot do. I guess one question I did have about that, and this is maybe rhetorical at this point, but kind of wondering about school lunches. I know that food insecurity comes up as a big issue during this for kids, and I'm wondering, does that vary depending on what solution the district picks? And I don't know the answer to that, but it's of concern to me. I also want to congratulate everyone on the town meeting that we held outdoors at the high school, town administrator, police, fire, EMTs, cable, DPW, and high school staff. DPW, unbelievable. Every time I drove through there, Robo was there, and and you were there, Scott, and it was just an amazing thing to have that set up. And I think everybody did a terrific job. It was, I thought it went quite well. It was definitely a hot day, and I was just impressed with how everyone did it in setting that up, and impressed with the residents and the fact that really the great majority of people did stick around for it. I was almost certain that at some point a lot of people would get up and leave, but there were a lot of, diehards that really wanted to hear everything and vote and stay to the end. So it was quite impressive, and it did go on for a while. So I do want to thank everyone for that. I did see some interesting input from people. I had made a post about the town meeting on Facebook, and people did comment on obviously it was different this year. And I have to say it was interesting because I would say that probably the majority of people that commented on the day really did like the Saturday meeting. But we have this discussion every few years as far as, weekday in the evening, a Saturday morning, but people are busy with soccer or they're busy with work at night, that kind of thing. So I know that there are a lot of issues about that, but I think the shortcuts that we took, Fred George did a great job in summarizing the motion so that we didn't have to read that twice. So I think there were some good things that happened that maybe bear duplicating in the future. I attended the recent LEPC meeting. Those are always very nicely done. I want to thank Chief Parenti and Mike Borowitz for their work in putting that together. And that was a Zoom meeting and attended by a few of our businesses. Usually the risk managers, I believe, is what their positions are. So I think that's always a very well done meeting. Thank you very much. And I also want to make a thank you to the Community Affairs Committee for their work that they had done in trying to get a concert season going. And obviously that's not going to happen this summer, but I know a lot of work goes on with that particular committee. They're a very, very busy committee with a lot of good people on that. So I do want to thank them for their efforts in any case. So that ends my report.
Thank you, Leslie. Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to welcome Scott to the Select Board. It's look forward to working with you. And Jason, congrats on being reelected and opting to do this for another 3 years. Just to echo what Leslie and Julianne have already said, just a big shout out to everybody for town meeting. Considering the circumstances, I thought it went really well. It was very hot and it was a long day, but it was, I thought everything went as well as we could have hoped. So just thank you to everybody who had a hand in that. I also wanted to thank the school committee. Leslie went through the options that they're going through right now. I've heard from I've had this thought myself that when you run for a position in local government, you don't expect to be hit with a pandemic, and I can't imagine what that must feel like being on the school committee and having to go through this pandemic with considerations for the school year. So I appreciate all that they're doing and the efforts that they're all putting in. And lastly, I just wanted to thank Andy Dowd for making the options for people to have their vote counted. I know there's a lot of concerns in the world right now as far as mail-in voting goes. So it's good to know that our community is providing people with a number of different options so that their vote is actually counted. That ends my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. For my report, welcome to Scott Rogers, our new selectman. Congratulations. I think he'll be an excellent addition to the board. Scott was previously serving on financial planning for a couple of years. He's got some familiarity with town government process and budget process, so I think the learning curve will go rather quickly. It should be an easy process. I also want to thank all the other candidates who participated in the election this year. It's always a little bit of courage, if you will, to put your name out there. It's not like serving on an appointed board through appointment of some other board or committee or person. You have to go out, you have to do some work, you have to campaign, and just appreciate the effort that everyone makes in doing this. Certainly, I'm sure everyone has the best interests of the town in mind when they seek elected office. For the town election, I want to thank Town Clerk Andy Dowd and Assistant Town Clerk Karen Wilbur, our election workers, and the citizens who did participate either by mail or in person. It was quite a process, quite a very good turnout actually, and I was actually very surprised at the number of people who did vote in person on election day. So there was a lot of work involved with that, and I appreciate all the extra measures that had to be put in place for in-person voting to be conducted safely. So thank you for that. For town meeting, as other members have already mentioned, just really extraordinary effort on the part of town departments and staff to try to get that coordinated and configured. Putting in a ramp at the high school for access, getting the field set up, the audio system, the tent and stations, the cooling stations, just a tremendous amount of work. We obviously had the delay from the original scheduled date of July 11, pushing that back to July 18. And Friday, July 17 wasn't the clearest day either. So the work that was put in to get us through that and to have us up and running and ready to go at 9 a.m. on Saturday is certainly very much appreciated. And I just want to thank again Town Moderator Fred George for conducting the meeting under these circumstances. I agree with Leslie's comment. I think there were some things we put in place, such as the consent agenda, which we should consider doing on a regular basis. We can expedite some of the more routine actions or housekeeping items that don't really require a lot of scrutiny or debate, and get us on to the things that people are more concerned about. Scott, once again, extraordinary effort with the DPW crew to get everything set up there. I did take a drive out a couple times and saw the work that was going on and the coordination it required. John, just phenomenal. Chief Parenti, Chief Liver, getting some of the emergency support in place for all of that. Just really great job under difficult circumstances. Very unpredictable conditions, just trying to navigate that as best we can. And I think all in all, it turned out to be a success. Finally, I thank the staff members and committee members who, unlike some of us, did not have the opportunity to sit under a tent in the shade. They're out there in the sun. And of course, the many citizens who attended town meeting persevered through the heat, through these circumstances to get us done, get the articles heard and voted on, and kind of dispose of that and let us proceed with the remainder of the fiscal year. So thank you all for that effort. Back on Friday the 24th, I was able to participate in more firefighter paramedic candidate interviews with Captain Rob Dev and firefighter paramedic Joel Rosenkrantz. We had 7 candidates, some very good quality candidates. I think it was up to the chief to try to sort that out and see if he could find the deciding factors that would prefer one to another. But certainly an interesting experience to be on that side of the table in an interview and see the questions that are asked and the way they're answered and the expertise of the professionals, as I called them, who were conducting the interviews on behalf of the department. So thank you all. I'll also echo Leslie's comment about the school administration and school committees. Very difficult situation. Obviously, a lot of continued uncertainty, a lot of concern and anxiety, I'm sure, on the parts of parents and students, wondering how things will operate, in what way they need to be prepared. And for the school administration and school committee members, trying to organize that, trying to think it through, get it planned. And then obviously the school staff and teachers who are doing their best to cope and accommodate and get themselves kind of rewired for how educational delivery will have to take place this year. So not an easy circumstance to navigate, still a lot of uncertainty, but we certainly appreciate the concerns and the efforts of everyone involved to try to make that work as best as we were able to do that. So that concludes my report. John.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just more of a couple of comments. I just want the board to be aware and be appropriately sensitive to kind of where we are right now. As you know, we run a very lean operation. We've got limited staff, and under the best of circumstances, at full staffing, it is difficult for us to keep up with the workload that we have. As you know, we're missing a couple of key positions. The recruitments are ongoing, and I hope to make appointments shortly, but the assistant town administrator is moving forward, and second round interviews are taking place shortly. We're also moving forward with Board of Health agent recruitment. There's a couple, I mentioned earlier that the library director's position is open as well. So, but missing our assistant at the moment, which is our HR person, and our Board of Health, just means that everybody else has kind of had to pitch in. I've expressed some concern to you in the past couple of years in particular, just about the sheer workload and what's being asked of the staff that we have. And again, under the best of circumstances, it still requires a lot of hours for us to produce the kind of outcomes that have been expected by us. One of you mentioned earlier how pleasing it is to see this staff work together. I have that pleasure every day, and I look around this Hollywood Squares matrix here, and I am so pleased and thankful for the people that I work with, because under these very difficult circumstances, we've been able to accomplish amazing results. But we have a backlog of projects right now. We have boards and committees. I mentioned White Cliffs Committee. I need to get back to them, and we need to get them going again. We've got several other boards and committees and projects, significant projects that have been put on the back burner that we need to get going again. We just had town meeting, which everybody talked about. It was great success. With that success comes a new feasibility study committee, new projects to bid out the cell tower to get surplus through a very elaborate process, the old fire station on Church Street. So we've added 4 or 5 new significant projects. We have a good range of capital projects that were approved, including Assabet Valley. I guess it's important for me to make sure that the board knows the staff is really maxed out at the moment, and everybody is doing well. We're fine. There's no mutinies or anything, but we have been going at a pace that is really, frankly, unsustainable. There were periods of time during COVID-19 and its peak where many of the people that you see on the screen here, we worked nights and weekends. Jason Little and I literally worked a month and a half without really taking a day off to deal with the financial crisis. Then we also had to deal with the health crisis. And then we had to deal with the fact that we didn't have our staff. So a lot of department heads, their support staff wasn't there. They were trying to work remotely. We've been trying to put all this stuff together. I guess the piece I want to just convey is that I'm asking for a sensitivity from the board in terms of the demands that are being placed on staff. We've gotten through town meeting after an ordeal to get there. None of my staff has taken vacation, so I'm trying to be as kind to folks and then over this next month and have people get away and get the break they deserve. But I've had folks that have just worked nonstop for this community and for this board and for its residents. And I just want to thank them all publicly for what they've done. Every single department head has done their part in this crisis and these very difficult circumstances to make things go as well as they possibly can, to make the residents feel like things have been as flawless and as seamless as they possibly can. I want to recognize a couple of people here tonight, and I think it's important that they be recognized. The first one is Andy Dowd, our town clerk. And by the way, I want to recognize a couple of people. Every department head has done an incredible job doing their job under very difficult circumstances. But a couple of people have stepped out of their lane and done jobs that aren't related to their work and have contributed in a way that we would not have been as successful as an organization had they not done what they've done. So the first one's Andy Dowd. I want to recognize when we were trying to get information out, Andy took it upon himself as a member of our COVID-19 task force to put together and design that website that is operational today. And that's how we pumped out all of our information through there. And even everything else that we did directed people back to that as a clearinghouse. And so Andy's job in part is to keep the records and to communicate. But that's a project I could not do, and I didn't have anybody in my office to do, and MIS couldn't do, and Andy stepped up and did that. And he's continued to maintain that. That means he gets emails from me at 11:30 at night to post things. And why he responds to me at 11:30 at night, I don't know, but he does. And he posts that stuff Saturdays and Sundays. I'm emailing him at all hours of the day, and he's taking it and getting up so the residents are informed. So I want to thank him publicly for all of that work. The second person is the fire chief. You heard us talk earlier about the Zoom. He is our Zoom guru. Everything had to go remote. And he has modules that he has done recorded training for department heads and for board and committee members. He has chaired the committee that has been training the boards, the committees, the staff, the hosts. He's put all that material together. And then on top of that, in the interim, because we had nobody who can host all these meetings, he pretty much was working 3 or 4 nights a week after being the fire chief during the day, playing Zoom host so that the boards and committees can get back to their jobs and get their work done. That is outside of his lane. That is not his responsibility, but we had an incredible need. You know, he's a tech savvy guy, and he stepped up and he made that happen. And he's still doing it. And so we need to get him off those duties. And I'm working on that, Chief, I promise you. But to this day, when something with remote access is needed, he's our guy. The last person I want to recognize tonight is our DPW, Scott Charpentier. Scott has taken on anything that I've thrown at this guy for the last 3 months, and I've thrown everything that didn't have a home wound up on his desk. The facilities projects, White Cliffs, the front of the building, generators failing. He's not our facilities guys. You know, we don't have a facilities manager. Scott has filled in on that. In addition, Scott has taken on the reopening committee, chairing that, making physical improvements to our buildings with plexiglass, coming up, drafting the policy, coming up with the protocols for allowing people in-person meetings. And I will say this, I'm not one to delegate critical things without staying on top of them, like town meeting. I gave Scott town meeting all the logistics for the physical layout. We all had a hand in town meeting, the moderator, Andy, with his staff, we all had a hand in that. But that whole physical layout, contacting all of the vendors, making sure the physical improvements to allow accessibility acts, all that stuff, Scott handled it. I've been piling stuff on that guy's plate in an unfair manner for the last 3 months at least. And he not once has pushed back, and he not once has failed to deliver. And again, this doesn't take anything away from the rest of our team, which has done a phenomenal job. The police chief, the finance director, you know what our folks have done for outreach. We called every single senior personally, all that stuff. I'm not taking anything away from the rest of our staff, but these 3 guys have done things outside of their lane, and they've made, for me as your town administrator, being short-staffed with my assistant being out, these 3 guys have made this work for us. And I just feel like I need to publicly acknowledge, and I hope the board acknowledges, and you have through your reports previously, just what a great staff we have. And the fact that we don't have, as the fire chief always liked to say, any sandbox issues. Your finance director and your DPW and your police and your fire and all your key departments, they all work well together. But they're all exhausted and they're all overloaded. And we have too many projects. We will do everything that we can, but I just want to say I appreciate the patience for things like getting some of these boards and committees that have had to take a back burner, like White Cliffs and a few other ones. We're getting back there, but we are in. I feel like I need to speak on behalf of the staff in that they are at their limits, and we have been a long road. They need a little bit of a break, and I want to acknowledge everything that they've done. And I also want to acknowledge that I know that their workloads are, in some instances, in many instances, not sustainable. And so we need to take that into consideration as we move forward. We're adding a diversity and inclusion committee. We're adding a master plan implementation committee. We're adding a feasibility study committee for the town hall. We've got all these other projects that have loaded on. We've got these big capital projects, which again are going to fall to Scott, like the the Assabet Park renovations, the water tower renovation, the garage project that's moving forward, all these things that I know you're aware of. I think it's just important that people understand the dedication, the great job, limits of where we are, and that I want to thank publicly all the staff, these 3 individuals in particular, and just say that we could not have had all the successes that you just all spoke about without the whole team and several of those team members going significantly above and beyond their regular day-to-day work without complaining to make this all happen. So I appreciate your indulgence tonight. And gentlemen, I just want to say thank you for everything that you've done. And I'm proud of you all, and I'm proud of our entire team. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, John. Certainly sentiment I think all of us on the board share based on what we've observed over these last several months. And we haven't observed all of it, frankly. A lot of it does take place out of sight from us. We hear, the snippets of somebody covering this, somebody covering that. You're the one who's seeing it each day, every day. And these people are the ones who are putting in that effort, putting that time, putting in that dedication each day and every day. So it is very much appreciated. I don't think it's really well understood. And I thank you for making these comments in this meeting to try to kind of give some visibility to that. It's important for people to understand the demands that have been placed on the town staff and the dwindling capacity that we have to accomplish the work that's already in flight, never mind adding additional significant items to that workload. The point is taken. I think we've talked about this a couple times about just staff capacity versus workload. It's not until you actually see the full list of items that are already underway or about to be launched as a result of this past town meeting that we fully appreciate how much is already slated to be done. It does make it difficult to entertain new initiatives beyond what we've already agreed to, and certainly appreciate the need for the staff members to try to recover and recharge from what we've just been through up through town meeting, and just have a little bit of opportunity to kind of regather their energy and then apply it in full force going forward, as they continuously do. So the sentiment's appreciated. I think we probably do have to perhaps have another conversation in detail about all of these projects that are ongoing, perhaps delving into how the staffing assignments are going among those to provide coverage and basically assess, where we can reasonably get some of these projects done and where unreasonably some things may have to be slowed or certainly refrain from adding to the workload in a time frame that, as you say, is not really sustainable or achievable based on the demands that town staff is already under. So any other comments by board or committee members? Leslie?
Yeah, I feel like kind of helpless right now. I feel like I need to clap, first of all.
Yes, let's clap. Let's do that.
It's such an overwhelming feeling, John, the way you spoke about it, I think was very eloquent. We really are blessed with amazing department heads here. I mean, I look around at this Brady Bunch square thing here, and it's really quite amazing that the people that we have on board here. And I think it's wonderful that you brought that up, and I do think it's important for residents to understand this. And I think it's important for you to occasionally go through the projects that are kind of ongoing so that everybody can hear what really is happening here with the limited staff that we have, and the fact that we still strive to be a high achieving community to meet the needs of all of our residents as well as we possibly can in a professional and respectful manner. So I think it's extremely important what you said, and feel free to do it at any of our meetings, because I think it's important for us to be reminded, and it's important for residents to hear this and be reminded that though they may have some ideas as far as things that they want to see happen, that in the grand scheme of things that may not work right now in terms of everything else going on and the other priorities that we have. So thank you very much to all our department heads. So happy about who we have here. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Any other comments? None at the moment. This will bring us to public comment. So I have a few people here in the public comment queue. If you're on Zoom, please raise your hand. There is one caller by phone who's listed here. Caller by phone, your number ends in 091. If you wish to speak in public comment, I believe you press *9 to have the effect of raising your hand. Be aware, I believe, if Chief Parenti, please correct me if I'm wrong, for caller who's on by phone, if they come into the meeting, is their full phone number displayed in that case?
No, well, not as long as you just allow them to talk. I've set a filter to stop that from happening.
Okay, so in that case, that person would be allowed to talk?
Yeah,
but
correct.
not-
You'd allow them to talk the same way you would you would recognize anyone else. You wouldn't see all the numbers.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Chief. The first person I have is Susie Sislika. Let me bring you in here. Hello, Susie.
Hi, can you
Hi.
see me?
Yes, we can.
Susie Sislika, 8 Emerson Road. I just want to say thank you to start off. I'm going to try to talk very fast because I have a lot to say in my 3 minutes. I was going to start this stopwatch, but forgot to. Thank you for all that you're doing. I'm sorry I couldn't go to the town meeting. My son had his first communion, so it's my favorite night of the year for the town, so I was upset to miss it. And hearing about the need, how the town staff, I know we're in need of a lot of positions right now. And I know that a lot of projects have been put on hold and are going to get going again. And I do want to talk about another committee that I think needs to be formed. I don't know if we were saying we shouldn't have any more committees right now, because I am on town committees and local committees, that haven't been meeting. But I really want to talk about the importance of a traffic safety group committee, much like the one in Lexington and Chatham and Westborough. So many times people have had complaints about traffic and you don't know who to send emails to, where to send them, what to do. You don't know if they've been discussed before, who's discussed them, what happened with it, was it denied, was it unfeasible? And I feel like a traffic safety group would really eliminate a lot of these questions for residents and streamline it for you. Because if I email Leslie and then 2 months later, I email Jason, 2 weeks later after that, email Julianne, how, you might mention it in your discussions, but you're with open meeting law, I guess it's hard to discuss amongst each other. But how do you know? Where is it going? I feel like having the meetings, having the ability for residents to be a part of it with you would be wonderful. A resident, maybe an elderly resident, someone from the disabled community, parents. No one can tell you the worst sidewalks in my neighborhood than me with a stroller, or where my kids can't ride their scooters on the sidewalks. And Westborough has a mix of community members. I know that it was mentioned that we have one right now with members of the police, engineering, DPW, and planning. I want to be able to have a voice in this. I want to be able to attend a meeting if there is going to be a feasibility study. I think it would also take the burden off of you guys. Some immediate projects come to mind where this group would help. My immediate concern is the 135 crosswalks from Northgate all the way down to right here by me, across from Ellsworth Park. Maple Street with the truck restrictions and crosswalk that I've heard people talking about, the proposed warehouse, what's the traffic study going to be for that? The School Start Later initiative. Have we done a traffic study on what's going to happen in Main Street and that light? Because going through there at rush hour, it's already bad. There's going to be all those teenagers driving then too. The downtown area, it could help with the feasibility study for Town Hall, like at the 4 West Main, even though that would be 1.5 years down the road. Who's going to study the traffic impacts there and the parking and everything? We want to revitalize Main Street. speed bumps in different neighborhoods. White Cliffs was another one that was just mentioned. I know that there was money given for a sidewalk plan. That would be helpful to have a couple parents, to have a couple members of the elderly community be able to sit down with you and talk about it. Assabet Valley renovations.
Susie?
Yeah.
It is
Am I at
running
3
over
minutes?
time. Well, if you want to make a kind of some concluding comments here, that would be fine.
Sure. Oh, and also another member that I think would be useful would be business owners in the master plan committee as well. But I would also, if I was a member of that committee, I would take it upon myself to look for grants. I'm a retired attorney and I would love to help the town write grants. I know that you're lean on staff. I just think it's something that's really needed and could help a lot of the other projects that are going on in town. So thank you. And thank you for all you're doing. And just thanks.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments, Susie.
Yes.
Next up, says for Maselli. I assume this is Lisa Maselli. Hold on, Lisa. There it is.
You're right. That's what my computer says. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Miss Kelly, 13 Maple Street. And again, I do mirror everybody's appreciation of everybody's hard work that we've had. So many people filling in for so many other seats. It's not easy. I actually wanted to, in watching the meeting tonight, I wanted to bring something up that I really wasn't going to talk about, but it was a little poignant for me. At this year's town meeting and at the second finance committee meeting before COVID, the town administrator had said he had toured 4 West Main Street with engineers and found it in terrible condition. And I don't know how he was able to manage that if the property is private and you're not allowed to go do that. I find it confusing that we're told it's bad. We're told we can't see it because it's private, but then somebody gets to see it, somebody says something different. How do we ascertain what really has to be done? Since part of the agreement for this building, when we get it back, is to be put into the condition that it should be, which is in good condition to receive it. And they're going to need time to put it back into good condition if in fact it's in such bad shape as the administrator has told us. Now, one of the things that I do want to mention is, as Selectman Hirsch is asking about it, she gets cut off in the middle of her sentence. I don't think that's very well treatment for a selectman. And I'd like to see her treated a little bit better. And I'd also like to have a straight story on what's going on with 4 West Main Street. And that's it.
Okay. Thank you for your comments.
So if I,
John, would you care
Through the chair,
to
if I could just say,
respond?
so
Sure.
we toured it at the invitation of the owner. That's why we went there. And one of the reasons we went there was to begin a dialogue about transferring that property back. But we had to do it with their permission and at their invitation. So that's as simple as that. As I said, as the property transfers back, we will need to work with the owner to get in there to do the work that needs to be done. And that's one of the reasons why we're forming the feasibility study committee. And one of the reasons why we need to engage architects and engineers to go in there and do that review. So that is exactly what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Thank you, John, for the clarification. I don't see any other hands up for people connected to the webinar. If there are no other comments, we'll proceed to new business. First item is the proclamation and celebration of the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment, allowing women the right to vote. I don't know that we had a guest for this.
No.
I think we do not have a guest for this. So let's see. Julianne,
Yes,
Would you care to read the proclamation? This is essentially the acknowledgement of the
I
100th
cannot
anniversary.
access it right now. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Does anyone besides me have it in front of them at the moment? Leslie, would you care to read it?
Have it. Okay. Town of Northborough, Massachusetts, Board of Selectmen proclamation. Whereas 100 years ago, the 19th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America was ratified by 2/3 of the states on August 18th, 1920, and the amendment was certified on August 26, 1920. And whereas this amendment enshrined the right to vote, that is suffrage, for women in each and all of the United States. And whereas supporters of suffrage for women had struggled for more than 70 years with conventions, proclamations, parades, demonstrations, picketing, petitions, and canvassing. And whereas many campaigners had suffered at the hands of authorities, even being incarcerated and cruelly treated while in prison. And whereas the GFWC Northborough Junior Women's Club believes that engaged and involved citizens, regardless of ethnicity, color, gender, or political alliance, are the pillars of democracy. We now therefore proclaim August 18th, 2020 through August 26, 2020, Women's Suffrage Celebration Week in the town of Northborough, and be it resolved by the Board of Selectmen that the community of Northborough honor and extend its appreciation to our four mothers throughout the states for this accomplishment, given this 10th day of August in the year of our Lord, 2020.
Thank you very much, Leslie. I just want to note that the request for this proclamation came from the Northborough Junior Women's Club through their co-president, Martha Mikalowicz, and we received the request. We were pleased to be able to provide this proclamation. Once again, Women's Suffrage Celebration Week, August 18th through August 26th, celebrating the 100th anniversary of the success in granting women the right to vote. So appreciate the request and happy to deliver the proclamation. So any other questions or comments by the board? None. Leslie, thank you very much for doing that.
Welcome.
Next up, we have appointment of special police officer.
There's a motion for that, Jason.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Yes. Julianne, which is why I asked you first. Yes, do you have a motion?
We do. I move the board vote to proclaim August 18th, 2020 through August 26th, 2020, Women's Suffrage Celebration Week in the town of Northborough in recognition of the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment, allowing women the right to vote.
Second.
Moved and seconded. This is again a roll call vote. Scott Rogers.
Aye.
Julianne.
Aye.
Leslie.
Aye.
Tim.
Aye.
And I also vote aye. The motion carries unanimously. Now we have the next item, appointment of special police officer, Chief William Liver, and I believe we have Michael Rice, and also, is it Sergeant Treffry? Who I see appears to be connected.
Okay. Well,
Let me hello, Michael.
Okay. Hi, how's it going?
Good.
okay.
And Jeremy, we also have you on if you want to pop in here. And I'll turn it over to Police Chief Liver for the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Michael Rice is one of our full-time 911 dispatchers in the communications center. Handles all of our 911 calls when he's on duty, dispatching police and fire and sometimes DPW, and all the other related tasks that go with being the voice of the town of Northborough when you call the police or 911. He's a Boylston resident, native rather, lives in Clinton at the moment. Again, he spent two years full-time. Mike has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. And much to Mike's credit, over the past, I would say 8 months or so, he took on the task of sponsoring himself through the Reserve Intermittent Academy, which is, I believe, 375 hours, roughly thereabouts, and 2 nights a week and all days on Saturdays. He paid for that himself. The benefit that we get is he's qualified to work for us as a special police officer in a part-time capacity. His duties will mostly be directing traffic, things like the town meetings, Applefest, when we need supplemental help. But mostly he adds to the number of bodies that we have for the balance of the summer for details such as the DPW who decides to pave in the middle of the summer when I have 5 people out, so Michael add to that number. And then we're just glad to have him on board because he's been a good employee for the last 2 years. And, hopefully it's a step in the right direction for him as he wants to advance his career in law enforcement. So I respectfully ask that you appoint him effective tomorrow. I also previously made arrangements with the town clerk so we can get Mike in a uniform and have an in-person swearing in so that we can get some pictures there. And his first appointment will be effective again tomorrow with the expiration of June 30th of 2021, at which time I'll request his appointment for the following calendar year, fiscal year. So.
Very good. So is that to say the arrangements for the swearing in are yet to be determined, or?
Yeah, probably as soon as he gets himself into a uniform here, and we can probably by the end of the week.
Okay, excellent, great. Michael, thank you very much. We appreciate stepping into this role, and I mean it speaks a lot about your dedication and commitment to be kind of self-sponsoring through the training and everything. That speaks volumes in terms of the self-motivation you have and the kind of people we like to have in the town of Northborough. We certainly have acknowledged some of those individuals here. So just very grateful and welcoming for you wanting to step up into this position. Board members, any comments? Leslie?
I'd also like to thank you. Thank you, first of all, for your work as a full-time dispatcher. That's such a critical role, and to have someone like yourself in that role and answering the phone and taking care of things the way you do is truly wonderful. And the fact that you want to expand your duties and perform elsewhere in town like that is terrific. And as Jason said, to be self-sponsoring like that does say a lot about you and your character and wanting to take advantage of an opportunity for us. So thank you very much for being here in Northborough and working here. We really appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other board members? Very good. Well, thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. Look forward to, oh, well, here I go again. I think there's a motion here, right?
There is, Mr. Chair.
Scott, would you care to offer a motion?
I would. I'd move the board vote to appoint Michael Rice as a special police officer effective August 11th, 2020, for a term to expire on June 30th, 2021.
Okay.
Moved and seconded. This is another roll call vote. Scott?
Aye.
Julianne?
Aye.
Leslie?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And I also vote aye. The motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, Michael. It's our pleasure to appoint you, and we look forward to your continued expanded service in the town of Northborough.
Very much.
Thank you. I look forward to continuing on with Northborough for some time.
Great. Great to hear.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
Jeremy Treffry as well. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Jeremy. Yep. And let's see. This brings us to the next item, discussion regarding Black Lives Matter. The first item is consideration of statement from the Board of Selectmen. Selectman Kalen. Tim, would you care to present?
Yeah, at our last meeting, I read an initial statement and asked the board for approval. We had a discussion and there was an ask for some edits to be made. I've had some conversations with other people in town regarding the statement and received some input there. So I was just going to read the updated statement, and then if anybody has any questions or discussion points, we could take it from there.
Very good.
So again, this is just the initial statement with some edits. Today is June 22nd, 2020, and unthinkably, this board and this community needs to make a statement condemning racism. The fact that it is 2020 and we still need to make official statements condemning racism speaks to the fact that the United States has not yet found equality for all. Unforgivably, that is where we are as a society. The Northborough Board of Selectmen officially condemns, without question, racism and discrimination in all forms. Racism is a cancer that destroys the moral fiber of society. Racism is a crime against humanity. Racism is unacceptable. The Northborough Board of Selectmen support all the peaceful protesters involved in the Black Lives Matter movement, and this board unequivocally believes that Black Lives Matter. In addition, the Northborough Board of Selectmen also supports the Northborough Police Department. Our community has a very professional and dedicated police department that has earned our trust. This is a complicated issue, and this board does not believe that supporting one side means being opposed to the other. It is 2020, and it is heartbreaking that statements like this need to be made, not only in Northborough, but in all communities across the country. But statements are no longer enough. An African-American woman who lives in Northborough asked an incredibly important and powerful question. When I go to various departments in Northborough, why does no one look like me? Northborough is a wonderful community filled with good people, but there is much room for improvement. We can be better. Northborough will be better. Statements are important, but actions lead to change. In addition to condemning racism and discrimination, this board is proposing the following actions. Establishment of a diversity and inclusion committee. This committee will be composed of town department leaders, community leaders, and residents. The committee will be tasked with improving the diversity and inclusion in all town departments, creating and delivering diversity and inclusion programs for residents and business owners, and collaborating with school boards on diversity and inclusion curriculum. Over the next 2 months, the mission of this committee will be established, the membership defined, and have the committee established by October 1, 2020. 2, require that diversity and inclusion training and courses be part of all staff professional development. The purpose of this training is to build a more diverse culture in our town government and services and learn that as a community, we need to be anti-racist. We are all in this together. It will not be easy, but change is needed and necessary. We will be better. Northborough will be better. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Comments from board members? Leslie?
I like this very much, Tim. And I appreciate the edits that you made. I really particularly do like the 1, 2, 3, 4th paragraph. In addition, the Northborough Board of Selectmen also supports the Northborough Police Department. I think that's a fantastic statement, and that you made it very clear that just because we support Black Lives Matter doesn't mean that we have an issue with our particular police department. I know I personally don't. I don't know anyone that does. And I think it's great to have made a statement like that ascertains that. So I think this is fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I would say that I do appreciate the work that has gone into this, Tim, in collaboration with some of the other people who were involved. We thank them all for helping to produce this statement. I find it kind of finds the right spot in terms of providing the appropriate support for Black Lives Matter. I think it's something that we do want to emphasize. We have seen some peaceful gatherings in the town and everything, and I think in participating in those, people come to find, or whatever, that there's a lot more common ground there across various races and ethnicities. So if there
I
are no
just-
other, yes, certainly.
Just add
Tim, go
one
ahead.
other thing. Selectman Hirsch pointed out a couple just grammatical corrections that need to be made. So I'm just going to make those and resubmit those to town hall. It's just a couple grammatical errors, that's all. And thank you,
Good. Leslie?
Julianne, for finding those.
Yeah.
I also had a couple, but I didn't want to bring them up. Might be the same two that I found two, so I can talk about that later.
Yeah, if you just want to send them to me, Leslie.
Okay.
Yeah. If there's nothing further, do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move the board vote to adopt the official statement on Black Lives Matter as presented this evening.
Subject to the corrections to be made in response to the select board members.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
With your discretion to make those corrections, Tim.
Yeah.
Moved and seconded. I'm sorry, who got the second?
I did.
Leslie?
Yes.
And again, a roll call vote. Scott Rogers?
Aye.
Julianne?
Aye.
Leslie?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And I vote aye also. Carries unanimously. The second related discussion, at least an initial discussion, is consideration of options for diversity and inclusion initiatives. Tim, do you want to begin that discussion?
Yeah, I am working on putting together the mission and the length that the committee will be in place. Once I have that better defined, I will share that with the board. I'm also working on what the makeup of the board will be, or the committee will be. And speaking with various members in the community and then the town staff, making sure that we have a good representation, but also keeping in mind, as John mentioned earlier, that there is quite a bit going on in town right now, and being respectful of the workload that the town is under right now. So also keeping that perspective in place.
Very good. Would you like any assistance from one other board member in fleshing that out, or would you prefer to draft something yourself in that regard?
No, I think if I appreciate the offer. I think it makes at least sense to me to draft something and then get feedback. If anybody has any input that they would like to share prior to that, obviously I'm open to any input from any board member or resident. So I think that's the best way to move forward.
Okay. I guess I'm a little uncertain about the participation of board members. In terms of development, something like this, it's more common to, or I'm not saying it's more common. I'm not sure about other board members submitting information to you, if that has the effect of somehow being construed as deliberation among a quorum of people.
Yeah, there shouldn't be, through the chair, there shouldn't be any feedback or discussions of a serial fashion. Yeah.
Right, right.
So,
I guess what I'm trying to clarify is if individual board members have something they want to submit for consideration, can they each individually submit that only to Tim? Or is that a gray area where we need to?
I mean, the best thing is if you have input to provide it in an open session so everybody can hear it and it could be incorporated.
Okay. So the other option I would have considered is that we could certainly add at least just one other board member as kind of a subcommittee effort or something like that. But if you're comfortable, Tim, just taking the lead on this yourself,
Mm-hmm.
then that's fine too, as far as I'm concerned. So it was
Okay.
just kind of a suggestion for options here in doing this. So as you mentioned, I think you said something about timeline. Are you envisioning this as a like an ad hoc committee that will?
Yeah, I think the committee, as I've thought through, will have a beginning and end date, 3 to 6 months in length, and presenting a report at the end of that time period to the Board of Selectmen with recommendations for things that can be done at various departments to improve diversity and inclusion at each department. Included in those recommendations will be any budgetary concerns, any requests for funds. And then at that point, working with the board to implement those and having a discussion then if there's a need to have a full-time ongoing diversity and inclusion committee.
I see. Okay. And so the objective here then is to do some of this further development and present it at our next selectmen meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Board members, any other questions or comments at this time? Scott?
Yeah, just thanks, Tim, for taking the lead on this and be willing to go, use your expertise to bring these out and form these plans. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, we don't have any other action associated with this specific sub-item. So Tim, I guess you have your homework assignment and we'll talk to you again at the next scheduled Board of Selectmen meeting.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Great. Thank you, Tim, for the effort here. Next item under new business is a state aid update. Town Administrator John Coder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as you know, we passed a town meeting on July 18th, a balanced budget that was balanced and anticipated 17% cut in state aid, not knowing ultimately what would transpire. The state has indicated that they are looking at a $6 to $8 billion shortfall. However, given the timing, many or most communities are having the difficulty of passing a balanced budget without having any sense at all where their state aid will be. So on July 30th, the governor and the legislature released a statement saying that it was their intent to hold harmless, basically, the two main aid accounts of state aid, which are Chapter 70 education funding and what's known as unrestricted general government aid, formerly known as the lottery funds, which are ours by Mass General Law. However, they called it unregulated, unrestricted general government aid during the last recession when they decided to siphon some of that off for the state. But I digress. The issue, this is positive news for us. So the state is basically committing to largely holding the state aid harmless for fiscal 21. Now, the reason for this is frankly, they can't set their own budget. So they're moving with a 1/12 budget, or they passed a quarterly budget through October, because they can't do their budget because they're waiting on the federal government to see what, if anything, they're going to get for coronavirus relief funds. So we can't wait for them. So they made a commitment for 21 to basically give enough information so that most communities can move forward and pass their budget. So these two aid accounts, these two cherry sheet accounts, Chapter 70 and unrestricted general government aid, are about 96% of our state aid. There's another roughly 235,000 of lines that they have not committed to funding at any specific level. As you know, when we talk about state aid all the time, I always say there's two pieces to this, to the state aid. It's the money they give you and the money they charge you. So oftentimes they'll give you money, and then they'll make assessments to you for things like regional transportation, mosquito control, and so forth. So really, it's a net effect of the state aid and the assessments that give you really what your state aid increases typically. So we don't have any information about assessments. We don't have any information about those other accounts. But just in the general picture, this is positive news that things are better financially for fiscal 21 than we had, the worst case scenario that we had planned for at town meeting. As I stated at town meeting, moving forward, the town has a couple of options. Again, I think there's still more information that needs to be forthcoming, but you could, as some towns will do, hold a special town meeting and modify your budget. As I stated, we have a balanced budget right now. If we take no action, essentially additional revenue that we get beyond what we forecast and budgeted at the point at which we set the tax rate in November would be used to reduce the tax impact. So this is good news. We're in good shape. We have a balanced budget now. If this state actually comes, state aid comes to fruition, it looks like we have a couple of options that we would probably discuss at an upcoming meeting. I think there's a few things that need to play out between now and probably your first meeting is September, not the least of which is finding out what the state is going to do with coronavirus relief funds. What are they going to give? I'm sorry, what the federal government's going to do. What, if anything, they're going to give to the state? And then what are they going to filter down to the localities in Northborough specifically? Remember now, under the original appropriation from the feds, the coronavirus relief funds, the state distributed a portion of that, about $500 million, through a formula based on population. So Northborough has $1.3 million sitting in an account, but it can only be used for direct coronavirus expenses like personal protective gear and equipment needs and overtime specific to your response. We cannot use those funds for general revenue replacement. So those funds are there. The state aid looks like they're going to hold us harmless on our two main accounts. We don't know what's going to happen with assessments, and we don't know what's going to happen to those other accounts. But the bottom line here, the takeaway is that Northborough is in excellent shape. If we leave the cuts in the fiscal 21 budget that were approved at town meeting and we stay the course, basically we would be reducing further the tax impact. So that's where we stand at the moment. This is good news, but I think we'll get a little bit more information, particularly with regard to what's happening at the federal level within the next month or so, hopefully. I'll just share this with you. They're holding these main aid accounts harmless in fiscal 21 because they have to. Because if they don't, most communities will be unable to set a budget and therefore set a tax rate and move forward. Northborough is one of the lucky ones through our fiscal planning and our ability to put a good budget together in dealing with these difficult numbers. But too many communities are unable to do that. So they have no option really but to hold them harmless. Now, what that means is my concern as we're fine for fiscal 21. My concern is fiscal 2022. So in fiscal 2022, if the state holds you harmless or largely holds you harmless in 21, they're going to expect us municipalities to take their lumps in fiscal 2022. In 22, I'm also concerned about what's going to happen with health insurance as we get a full picture with regard to what has happened in terms of the providers. Did they lose money? The insurance company is going to see a market increase that's going to be considerable for our budget. And then last but not least, when we set our, when we go through the assessments and the abatement process for fiscal 21, it's based on values from calendar year 2019. So coronavirus hasn't hit yet. In 2022, we're going to be dealing with abatement requests and things of that nature for businesses that have been impacted in some way. So as I look out, this is good news for us for fiscal 21. I think we need a little bit more time, a little more information before the board decides how it would like to proceed. But keeping in mind the real issue looming at this point and where most of our focus is on planning wise is going to be fiscal 2022. Now, there's a little bit of information locally that we're missing as well. So in terms of the decision about what to do or not to do with potentially some additional revenues, one of the things that we're looking at right now is we're trying to close out fiscal 20, which ended on June 30th. That process of year-end closure is complicated by the fact that we extended the deadlines by taking advantage of the local option legislation to give people more time, given the pandemic, to pay their bills, which means the books will close later. We'll know where our revenues actually tracked a month later. And so I want to see, and Jason Little, our finance director, we discussed it this afternoon, we want to see where fiscal 20 ultimately shakes out. We know it'll be to the positive due to the returned appropriations that were unexpended, but our revenues are going to come in pretty much flat. We're not anticipating in 20 getting anything over what we really estimated. So we're waiting on that local data. We're waiting on the federal information. And now, the other thing to keep in mind, even as we look at fiscal 21, depending on what happens as we move into the fall, if the federal government doesn't come through with aid substantial enough to really make the states balanced, there's always the possibility, or if the state sees their revenues, their non-federal aid revenues slide further than they forecast, we could look at 9C cuts, which are mid-year cuts in state aid for fiscal 21. So there's an incredible amount of uncertainty moving forward. We don't know how we're closing out fiscal 20. We're not sure how the revenues are going to track till we get some more data points. We don't know where the federal government is going to come out. The state, at least for 21, is committed on those two aid accounts to basically level fund us. But if things still come out bad and they don't get the help that they're expecting or anticipating from the federal government, there are lots of other funding sources that we get, like special education, circuit breaker funding, grants, a whole bevy of off-budget items that they can cut. And they could also, despite the fact that you might know what your state aid number is in August or September, in the last couple of recessions, we have seen mid-year cuts in state aid if things deteriorate further. So bottom line here is it's good news. There's still a lot of uncertainty and we're looking for additional information. And I would anticipate having another discussion with the board at your meeting on September 14th. But the bottom line is things will not be worse than we had forecast or we anticipated when we passed the budget at town meeting. And ultimately, I think the beneficiaries of that will be the taxpayers of Northborough. So good news, but stay tuned. I certainly can answer any questions that you have. I did include in your packet the release from the Mass Municipal Associations of that press release from the state. And we've got some detail on the specific account numbers, but this is good news.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it. The challenge as always is managing through uncertainty and trying to make your best estimates and anticipate both positive and potential negative impacts or outlooks. So just appreciate all the work that goes into this to try to follow what's going on at the state level and the federal level, and try to put us in the most defensible position, I guess it is, to make our way through this fiscal year, and as you indicate, potentially the following fiscal years as well, depending on how things turn. So Jason Little, also thank you very much for all the work that goes into this. Appreciate it.
Yeah. If I could follow up, Mr. Chairman, just one more
Sure.
thing, just in terms of timeline, keep in mind, we usually pass the budget at the end of April. The fiscal year ends June 30th. We immediately move to close out. We spend the summer months typically closing out the budget, but starting to move forward with all the projects that were approved at town meeting. It culminates, because we have to get our free cash certified. Our free cash certification plays into our capital planning, and it all plays into the hearing in November, the tax classification hearing where you set the tax rate. Well, we didn't pass a budget until July 18th. So everything is 3 months off. So things that should be done right now, I talked at the beginning of my reports about workload, okay? This is the budget that will not end. So none of the things that we normally would have behind us at this point are behind us, so we're continuing. So fiscal 21, the discussions, the planning, the assessments, the closures, all that stuff is going to continue through the next several months when we normally put that stuff behind us and we're able to focus on dealing with the projects that were just passed at town meeting and getting prepared to put our capital budget together for the fall. So just keep in mind that all of this stuff now is delayed. That additional financial workload is now overlaid on top of everything else that we have going. It's not done. And that's taking up Jason's time, taking up a lot of my time, and it's going to take up some of your time as well. So this budget process is going to continue for the next several months, at least the discussions. So
thank you for that clarification. Again, important for us to understand the fact that we are behind in terms of our usual schedule and that there's work remaining.
Through no fault of our own.
Through no fault of our own.
Just to be clear.
COVID-19 stepped up to fill that other time. So
yes.
So here we are. Yeah. Thank you, John, for the clarification. Any comments or questions from the board members? Leslie?
Yeah, I have a question, John. That money that is at 1.3 million that's earmarked for COVID-related expenses, is there any point where you anticipate that being potentially reassigned for use by the town in other ways? I thought I remember a discussion or seeing something about that somewhere.
Yes, so the 1.3 million, this is the coronavirus relief funds that were already approved, distributed to the state. The state took, I can't remember, it was 2.7 billion, but they took 500 million of that, distributed it by a population formula to all the towns. So that's the 1.3 million. We and the legislature has been asking the federal government. So this was already appropriated and already distributed to all the states, right? We've been asking for them to release or to modify the strings that are attached to it. Basically, it cannot be used as a general revenue for general revenue replacement, which if it was, and if it had been, this whole budget process for everybody would have been a lot easier. So whether or not the federal, this is one of the basic questions. There's two things that are happening right now. Whether or not the federal government goes back and changes the rules for that money that's already been distributed, and in our case, it's the 1.3 that the state of the money that the state gave us. What if that gets opened up, then that would become available. That's a whole nother discussion. If we get that money plus state aid, well, that's not going to happen because we'd have more money than we've ever gotten before from the federal and the state government. So I don't think that's going to happen. But so the disposition of those funds, are they going to revisit that, or are they going to rescind whatever isn't used? That's the concern, is that they may put a limit on that money, and if it's not spent on PPE and other things, that they'll rescind it and make it part of a subsequent package, or if they'll leave it with all these strings attached, and most towns can't use all that funding because you can only buy so many masks and gloves. You really need it to replace your just general revenue shortfalls. Meanwhile, there's discussions. Now, remember the House, the Congress, the House passed the $3 trillion supplemental aid package in addition to the one that was already passed. But the Senate refused to take it up. And so they're in negotiations, and we were hoping over the last month or so, right up prior to town meeting, we thought we were going to hear something. So that's still working through. So there isn't clarity on that. So you have these two pieces, the one that's already been appropriated that we can't really use much of, and then the other one that might be coming, and we've asked that that be for general revenue replacement. The state needs it for general revenue replacement. So the state's pretty confident they're either going to get the rules changed on this and or some supplemental and another aid package, but they don't know what it's going to look like when it's going to come. But they're taking the chance that it's going to come and committing to hold us harmless on our two main aid accounts. So it's just across the board tremendous uncertainty. But I think we all know that there'll be some, the Senate has publicly stated that they're committing to an additional aid for states and municipalities, but they're debating about the form and a number of aspects of it, and also additional stimulus funds for, just residents. So all that stuff's being debated. In the meantime, it's all being held up. So just an incredible amount of uncertainty. And but as I stated at town meeting, we are in the best possible position that we could be in, because we plan for a worst case scenario and things will only get better. The state's going to hold us harmless, and or we're going to receive some federal funds. And if we do nothing in terms of holding a fall town meeting to spend more money, all those funds will be able to be used for, when we set the tax rate in November, is to reduce the taxes that our residents pay. So all across the board, I think we're in a win situation. We just need to know ultimately how this is all going to play out, and we'll know a little bit more in a month. I don't think we're going to get full clarity until probably October. So.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, John.
Full clarity in October, yes.
Hopefully, maybe later.
Greater clarity, right?
We'll get more clarity.
Yes, more clarity. Any other comments or questions for John about the Julianne?
So this question might be for Jason Little, actually. Is it too early to give us an update on property taxes, fees, meals taxes, like, the town revenue side?
I would just give you a brief update saying that we did meet our general fund budget this year. We're not going to have any deficit in revenue, but generally, over the past 3 years, free cash gets generated from our revenues that come in above budget and a combination of appropriations that close out that are below budget. So for the past 3 years, we've averaged about $1 million on each side. And it's kind of coincidental. It's close to the same amount for both revenues closing out above budget and appropriations closing out below budget. This year might be a little bit different. This year, we are not really going to have any revenue that comes in above budget. So John made this point too, and I'm just repeating it again. It really depends on how many appropriations close out above budget, and we're still reviewing that. And one of the things that plays into that as well is, this grant claim that we put in, based on, the coronavirus response expenses we've put in this year. So whatever we claim for a grant is going to help our appropriation closeouts. So again, I don't really have a clear number on how much appropriation closeouts they're going to be yet, but on the revenue side, we're not going to be in a deficit, but we're not going to have a big windfall of revenue this year.
So at a future meeting, will we be able to get some numbers about how meals taxes this year compared with last year, or?
Yeah, we can provide an update at the next meeting where we stand with those revenues. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we look forward to more clarity. The next item, designation of board member to the Board of Selectmen interview subcommittee until the time that the liaison assignments are finalized. So to explain this a little bit, after each reorganization, the new chair or continuing chair has the responsibility to make the assignments for all of the board members as to what liaisons they have with other boards and committees in town. Typically, each of us carries 7 or 8 of those, I think it is. And typically, we tend to carry the same ones from year to year. With this past year, however, Dawn Rand did not run for re-election, and Dawn was one of the 2 people serving on the Selectmen's interview subcommittee, along with Leslie. And so since we don't yet have the liaison assignments made, since we didn't know until tonight who the next chair was going to be, I'll be doing that over the next couple of weeks. I'll be sending something out to invite your input for that. But meanwhile, we have perhaps some interview needs coming up this month in the near term, and need to kind of fill that position on an interim basis until the final liaison assignments are made. And so for that purpose, what I would suggest is we can kind of do that by agreement if there's somebody who has an interest. If there's more than one person that has an interest, then we can kind of step back to nominations and seconds and things of that nature to try to get it nailed down. But I'll just start by asking if there's someone who's interested in serving in that capacity for perhaps the next 2, 3, 4 weeks if needed. I see Tim Kalen. Julianne, did you have a hand up or no?
I did. I'm happy to volunteer to do this. I've attended a lot of the interview meetings, and I'm happy to fill in.
Okay, and Tim?
Yeah, the same. I'm happy to fill in. I certainly do enough interviewing where I think I could add some value to the process.
Okay, that leaves us in a position of 2 people interested, and we'll have to go to kind of a nomination second model here to make that determination. So I'll ask.
Jason, you know what? I'll rescind my offer. I'll defer to Tim. It's fine.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. If you're agreeable, that's fine. So if that's the case, then by agreement, we will have Tim serve as the interim interview subcommittee member along with Leslie. Do I see nodding heads? We don't need to. Well, yes, we do. We'll make a motion. I don't know what it is for me tonight. I'm having a trouble with the list of motions here. Leslie, I assigned you the motion for this. Could you please read a motion and get me out of this?
Yes, I will be happy to help and assist.
Thank you.
I move the board vote to designate Selectman Kalen as the board's liaison to the interview subcommittee to serve with Selectman Rutan until the time that the liaison assignments are finalized by the chair.
Have a motion. Do I have a second? Have a motion. Have a second by Selectman Rogers. Again, this is a roll call vote. So Scott?
Aye.
Julianne?
Aye.
Leslie?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. So thank you, Tim. And
Thank you. Thank you,
this
Julianne.
will allow, thank you, Julianne. This will allow our executive assistant, Diane Wackel, to proceed ahead with scheduling of certain upcoming interviews for some boards and committees that have vacancies and need to have people filled in. So let's see. Next item is annual reappointment of election officers. I don't see Town Clerk Andy Dowd on the meeting at the moment. This is just a annual appointment. The selectmen have a list of people who have served or interested in serving as election officers. This is something we take care of each year for a period of 1 year. This will be for the September 1, 2020 through August 31st, 2021. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move the board vote to reappoint those individuals who appear on the 2020-2021 election officer list for a term beginning on September 1st, 2020 and ending August 31st, 2021, as submitted by the town clerk.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Again, a roll call vote. Scott? Didn't hear that? Julianne?
Aye.
Leslie?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Carries unanimously. Next item, execution of the September 1, 2020 primary election warrant. Once again, this is the sort of a housekeeping item for us to set the warrant for the election, which includes senators and representatives, senator at the federal level. Do I have that right? Yes, senator and representative at the federal level, senator and representatives in state legislature, register of probate, as well as, well, that'll conclude it. So if I could have a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move the board vote to execute the September 1, 2020 primary election warrant as presented by the town clerk.
I have a second. Leslie, you had a second there? Yeah. Moved and seconded. Roll call. Scott?
Aye.
Julianne?
Aye.
Leslie?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Carries unanimously. Next item is Board of Selectmen's meeting dates. In your handouts, you can see the selection of dates that are proposed. Typically, the board meets on the second and fourth Mondays of the month. That would be September 14th and 28th. October is always an anomaly because you have Columbus Day, so-called, in the middle of the month. So rather than having two meetings on the 12th and 26th, we're proposing one meeting in October on the 19th. November, two meeting dates, the 9th and the 23rd. And in December, once again, we typically have two meeting dates, but they're offset from the second and fourth Mondays. Instead, we're looking at December 10th, which is a Thursday. I believe that's a Thursday, right?
Yes.
For our annual financial trend monitoring meeting, which is a meeting of joint boards and committees, financial planning, appropriations, and the school committee and administration. And then a regular selectmen meeting on December 21st. So any questions or comments about this proposed set of meeting dates? It's very conventional for what we typically do year to year. Hearing no comments or questions, then by agreement, this is our meeting schedule for the upcoming period through December. Thanks a lot. Any other business to come before the board? Take that as a no, other than executive session.
Other than executive session, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Then we'll have an executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Subsection 3, litigation relating to SA Farms and Marlborough Wastewater Treatment Plant. Due to the chair's determination that a discussion regarding these matters in an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the position of the board. Do I have a motion that says basically what I just said? We don't have a motion, so would someone care to offer a motion
So
to
moved.
that effect?
So moved, right?
So moved. Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Once again, a roll call vote. Scott?
Aye.
Julianne?
Aye.
Leslie?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And I also vote aye. Because we're in a remote meeting, we will be moving to another meeting venue for the executive session. Our open session business is concluded and nothing more will be done in open session this evening. So thank you all very much, and I will see you over on the executive session side.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.